Hello, everybody, and welcome to part 20, let's say 25, I don't know, my Fire Emblem 6 hard mode chapter guide. Today we're going to be talking about what I personally believe is the worst chapter in all of Fire Emblem 6, and that is the almost the last Gaiden chapter. I guess there's still one more that's actually going to come up pretty soon, but yeah, this is the Gaiden chapter for Sacae. It is, yeah, in my opinion, as I said, the worst chapter in the entire game, and there's two reasons for this. Number one, is that there's a gimmick with how you finish this chapter. So as you can see, if we kind of like go around the map, there are a lot of different bosses, all with very similar looking faces, but different names and a lot of different places to seize. Basically, the actual correct place to seize is random on this chapter, so you have to go around and individually seize all of these places, which means you have to kill a bunch of bosses. It's very tedious, and if you seize the wrong place, and we'll see this later on, a bunch of enemies are going to jump out of this tent or yurt or whatever, and you're going to have to fight them. It's very, very frustrating, and you basically have to keep everyone together at all times because you're going to have to fight a bunch of units, as I said, if you're wrong. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to this. I've never read anything or seen anything that talked about like there being a system. I think it's just completely random, and you just hope for the best. So that's pretty annoying, but that's not honestly the reason that I hate the chapter. As much as I do. I think if that were the case, I would still think this is the worst chapter in the game, but the reason that I really hate this chapter is that they split up your army. So you have units up here, you have units over here, and then the units that we just saw who are down here. The problem is this group right here, because this guy, who is not a super high magic druid, but a pretty high magic druid, has silence, and then this guy up here, who is also a pretty high magic druid, has berserk. And the combination of magic and berserk that basically overlap in all of the range that these people can go to is really, really difficult to deal with, because it means that even if you have potentially multiple restore users, they can still get silenced and berserked, and you can find yourself in a really big pickle, I guess. You also have, of course, Silverlance Wyvern Lords. They're going to be pushing you very quickly. For me, if you can figure out this beginning part of the chapter with these 4 units, the rest of the chapter is fairly straightforward, but the beginning is really, really difficult, and I usually lose units a lot on Iron Man's during this stage. Now, there's a few different strategies that I think work really well here. I've already done my preps, so I'll just talk about them really quickly. For one thing, what you could do, and I've talked about this before on other chapters, is just not bring 4 units, because of course, you know, there's 4 units here. The only problem with this is that having a lot of units for later on in the chapter is really useful, because a lot of units, I don't know exactly how many, but a bunch of units pop out of these yurts again if you get it wrong. And having a lot of units to handle them when they do that is very useful. So bringing 4 less units might not be the best strategy in the world, but I think it can be a good strategy. The other strategy is to bring strong units like Melody and Lou, and then manipulate the who they're going to prioritize with the status stabs. So I have Lou and Melody at the bottom of my deployment order, and then I have Nime and Cecilia, who can both use Restore, and both have Restore ready to go. You can also time out. So one of the things about this game is that the status stabs are just equal to the magic. So this guy has 19 range and this guy has 20 range. So even though they don't move, that's still a lot of range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, so Lou would have to get all the way up there to actually be untargetable by this silence, for example. It's really huge. So yeah, so this is a strategy that I'm going to go with. As far as the other teams go, you can kind of do whatever you want. I shouldn't realize that I put 4 paladins up here, which is sort of funny. This is the least important team, I would say. You can certainly push down here with that team to help those people. So perhaps it could be more important for that. And actually having mobility is pretty nice if that's your approach. This team as well is in a little bit of danger. There is a sleep staff here. So if you have a 3rd restore user, which we do, it can be really nice to have them up there. We also have Lalum, and then Shin and Rucker are just pretty strong units, so they're going to be able to do handle over there pretty well. But yeah, after this, I'll like we always do, I'll probably start skipping around. But just know that the beginning of this chapter, it's really crucial that you have a plan for these 4 units in particular. Or again, just not deploy 4 units there, which can also be a good strategy. Okay, so really quick, I just want to talk about what happened on the first turn. This is one of the reasons that it's really important, even if you manipulate the whole like deployment order thing, to have multiple restore users here, because Cecilia did get silenced. I will say, I think one of the mistakes that I've made is that because, and actually I didn't know this, but this will be important for going forward in my runs. It seems like the Berserk user goes before the Silence user. So I put Lou at the bottom of my deployment order and then Milady. So Lou got berserked right away, and then the Silence user obviously would like to have done Milady but can't. So did Cecilia. So doing it the other way around, having Milady at the not the very bottom, but the second to bottom, is actually probably the better approach because then she'll get berserked and Lou will get Silence. But it's still okay because obviously we can restore Cecilia, which I'll probably go ahead and do, and then we can restore Lou. But again, this is why it's so important because even like even with really good res, it can still be really hard to avoid. To be fair, the hit on our Lou was really low because he does have exceptionally good resistance, but things like that can still hit. I will also say that the Wyverns, it's really important to kind of thin them out because, well, for one thing, because a lot of these units are really juicy targets for the Wyverns to swoop in, and if you let them kind of like compile, it can be really, really difficult to deal with. So I used a Brave Lance on Milady to try to kill this guy. She did miss one of her 88%, which is kind of funny. But she did a really good job of dealing a lot of damage, so I'll probably finish that guy this turn. And then I just lured out one of the other Wyverns. It looks like two of the Wyverns have gone up to the north, which is really good as well, because these guys aren't dealing with the status stabs, so they can kind of deal with them at their own pace. As far as the rest of the chapter goes, again, it's mostly just about dealing with the units. There are a lot of Nomads and Nomad Troopers, but at this point, you're going to be really adept at dealing with these units, these type of units, so I wouldn't worry too much about them. But yeah, mostly just making sure that you're restoring every turn. You don't want to like miss a restore turn because if, in this case, Cecilia and Nime get berserked and silenced, it can really just be the end of the run right there. So be really careful with that. But yeah, this is the approach I like to take. Okay, two more things I want to mention really quick, and then I'll probably start skipping pretty considerably around this chapter. Number one, and you probably already noticed this because we've been fighting Nomad Troopers for a long time, Nomads cannot, but Nomad Troopers can go over water. Be aware of this because while taking choke points like this is really useful, and I'm going to be able to kill this Nomad Trooper this turn, not have to worry about it, the Nomads will cross the water and come after you. So if you leave Roy alone up here, for example, it can be really dangerous. There's a decent amount of mobility on this chapter, not just with the Wyverns, but also with the Nomads. Number two is that there is no physic on this chapter. There are a lot of status stabs that are very annoying, but there's no like physic druids or physic bishops or anything like that, which is really nice because if you chip enemies down, they won't just suddenly get healed. So it's a little bit nice. Obviously, that's it is what it is. You'll definitely feel that. But yeah, at this point, like I said, basically it's just dealing with the enemies. There is still one more silence and one more berserk. Last turn I believe they both missed. This guy actually might not have. Oh no, he did do it. But yeah, just deal with the enemies, and then I'll talk about the like next step of the chapter after that. But it's pretty simple. So okay, so I know I've skipped a lot of the chapter, but like I said, after you get past that initial kind of berserk silence mania annoying part, it's not so bad. So I've basically gathered everyone together. I would highly recommend doing this. Obviously, if you want to do it a little bit faster, you can potentially split up into teams. But you need Roy to seize any of the gates of the yurts or whatever anyways. And like I said, there are going to be units that spawn out of them. So I've gathered up everyone around the map. Just be aware as well that the bosses are still pretty annoying to kill. This guy's 89 avoid. I think the guy I just killed had around that too. The druids are a little bit easier. Fenrir isn't Nosferatu or anything, but yeah, we'll seize with Roy and we can take a look at what happens when we do that. Yeah, so it's really not that bad. I don't know if some of my units are stopping reinforcements or if really only 6 units come out, but they're not promoted or anything, so it's not going to be very difficult to deal with. It's just really tedious because, like I said, we're going to have to do this for potentially, 5 of these or whatever. Hopefully a lot less. We'll see. But yeah, just make sure that you have units around so you can kill the units that pop out of the yurt. Okay, so I've done 2. I did the 2 up here, and we're going to be doing a 3rd. I figure I'll just, I don't know, record when I do them just in case this is in fact the one. Nope, it's not. This is where the chapter can get really, really tedious because it's a lot of just moving units and then watching really boring combat with unpromoted units. But yeah, hopefully we can get it within the next couple. That would be nice. All right, try number 4. Let's see if this is the right one. Yay! Alright, thank God. Yeah, usually I feel like I get it after about 4-ish. But you do have to go all the way up to like the top left if you don't get it there, so it can be a little bit annoying. But yeah, for the most part, the reason I hate this chapter so much is because it combines a really frustrating beginning with a lot of status stabs with really tedious and annoying ending. But yeah, that concludes Sacae. So next time, I don't know which of our files I'm going to use. I guess it doesn't really matter. But yeah, we're going to be doing the last couple of chapters. There's not a ton left, so we're pretty close to being with the end of this series, which I think will be really cool. I've been looking forward to finishing this series for a while. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully that helped you with that chapter a little bit. As I said, it can be very frustrating. And I'll see you next time.